Welcome to Becoming a Financially Confident Woman, the podcast that helps high-achieving women take control of their money and build wealth with confidence. I'm your host, Dr. April Murdaugh, financial advisor, college professor, and founder of Woman to Woman Financial. I've got women through retirement planning, generational wealth building, and everyday money decisions. Beyond the credentials, I understand the struggles on a personal level. I've experienced widowhood, divorce, homelessness, and the challenges of being a single parent. Those experiences shaped my mission to help women like you gain the clarity, confidence, and strategies you need to take control of your financial future. This podcast is where professional expertise meets real-life experience, so you can move forward without fear or overwhelm. Let's dive in. Hey, y'all. This is Dr. April Murdaugh coming to you with another episode of Becoming a Financially Confident Woman. Today I'm going to talk to you about something that has lately been a phenomenon. I've been experiencing this and I've been seeing this in just the work that I get to do with the women that allow me to serve them, which I'm always honored to do. But today I want to talk to you about how you should not become a cheaper to keeper woman. Some folks are in relationships because maybe the man feels like it's just cheaper to keep her. Or you're in a relationship, a marriage, because it's just cheaper, And today I want to talk to you about how to not become that woman that stays in a relationship because it's cheaper for you, cheaper for your partner. And the reasons that I hear a lot often or more often than not are these few reasons I'll share with you today. One is, I can't afford to start over. I just cannot afford it. The other one is, divorce will destroy me financially. Or better yet, I make money, but I am not really in control of it. Or he pays the bills. And what will I do without him? Today, I want to talk to you about, again, don't become the cheaper to keeper woman. And, I am not a fan of divorce. I am not on here perpetuating leaving your marriage, leaving a situation that is good and healthy for you. But what I am saying is that if it is unhealthy and if you feel like you are experiencing any kind of abuse, it's just not. That whole cheaper to keep them, cheaper to keep her mindset is something that you've got to get rid of. And I understand. Listen, I am not coming to you with a clean slate. I have experienced being a widow and going through a divorce and actually leaving a relationship and really having to deal with the financial fallout of that decision. It's not easy just having one income. It is not easy making a decision to leave a relationship that you intended to be till death do you part. But you are better than staying in a relationship because of financial, emotional, or mental abuse. And today we're going to talk more about the financial side. And I want you really to understand that, yes, leaving a relationship may destroy you financially. It may have you have to start over. But honestly, you have to consider the other side. Would it be better to start over than to stay in something that is totally unhealthy for you? And I find a lot of married women are in that situation. Either they are the breadwinners and they've been in the relationship for so long that if they were to decide to leave, it could destroy them financially. They would have to split assets or lose assets or lose the home or change just the way that they've lived because they've gotten so comfortable. It's like a baby in a poopy diaper. After a while, they cry for a while and cry for a while, but then if no one changes them, they kind of get comfortable and used to it. And then we start using excuses for staying in an unhealthy relationship or continuing to be in a financially abusive relationship. Like I mentioned earlier, you can't afford to start over. Listen, starting over is hell. I know from whence I speak. I moved to Jacksonville, Florida with the clothes and everything that I could fit in the van, along with my 3 children and everything we can fit in the other commercial van, which my family drove to start life over. We were literally sleeping on mattresses on the floor, TV on the floor, until a good friend of mine came and brought us bunk bed frames and a TV stand so that we could watch television on a big box TV, not a flat screen. And this was just about 18 years ago. And so, what I say to you is yes, it is hard. It is not something I could have afforded at all. And it did destroy me financially. I had to start over completely. I lost retirement, lost savings, lost my home, all of those things. But to me, it was better for me to leave that situation so that I can create a healthy lifestyle and a healthy life for myself and for my children. So I want you to really think about that. Some people are in relationships, and men have said this, it's just cheaper to keep her. You know, if I get rid of her, then that means I have to give up all of this stuff, right? So people take that mindset and they stay in relationships that are completely unhealthy. He's being unfaithful and she may not be, but because she needs the lifestyle that has been created, because the person, their spouse may be the primary breadwinner, she puts up with things that she really shouldn't put up with or wouldn't put up with if she was in a stronger financial situation. And listen, it has nothing to do with your intelligence. It has nothing to do with you being stupid. It has everything to do with the fact that you took those vows seriously and you saw the potential in your mate or whatever it was, and you believe till death do us part. I am not here to destroy that belief, but what I am here to say to you is that I do not want you to be that woman. I do not want you to be a woman who has to suffer in silence because her spouse makes more than her and she could not start over or do it on her own. I don't want you to be that woman. And I'm going to tell you, I meet a lot of women who are, and 25 years goes by and 30 years goes by, and then something clicks. Maybe the kids move out, they go to college, and then they realize that they're there with someone that they really never had a relationship with. And then they decide that their freedom and their peace of mind is better to find that than it is to stay in an unhealthy relationship. So let's talk about what is a cheaper to keep her woman. Like I mentioned, it's a woman who stays in a damaging, disrespectful, or abusive marriage. Not because of love or healing, but because the financial cost of leaving just feels too high, and I get it. Listen, however much my spouse made at that time, 2 checks were better than one. And I remember years after, or just shortly after, it was like, oh my God, what did I do? I could have had, that help. That help is what I really craved and missed sometimes and regret it, right? But I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to be that woman. I want you to be in a relationship because it is healthy for you all around. So, again, the cheaper to keep a woman is a woman who stays in a damaging, disrespectful, or abusive marriage, not because of love or healing, but because the financial cost of leaving just feels too high. For example, let's say he controls the money, right? So you feel stuck. When I started this business, I had a young lady say to me, I don't need you. I don't need a financial plan. I don't need a financial advisor. My husband gives me his American Express card and I charge it and he pays the bill. I don't even know. I don't even have to look at those things. And that may be fine. That may be her reality. Obviously, it was her reality. And they may be happy marriage. It may work just fine. But then there are some women that I meet that are in that situation, but they feel completely stuck. For instance, I met a lady some years ago who was married to an executive. She had been a stay at home mother for 20 years. The kids went to college. She kind of stayed at home, made sure they were good. And then when they grew up and they moved out and they started their lives at the college, she wanted to start a business. And her husband was very successful. He loaned her $25,000. He said, I will loan it to you and you will pay me back in a year. I need to see this business work. Now, she came to me and she had no clue of what her husband's retirement would look like. She herself had no retirement at all, nothing. And so when I talked to her and said, okay, we should start a spousal IRA, she didn't have the money to do that because all of the money that she did receive was from her spouse. And she was too afraid to ask for money so that she could set up her own retirement. So these are things I'm talking about. Like if your spouse doesn't care about your retirement and you stay at home with the children, you earn a lot of money as well. Just because you may not work outside of the home or just because you work and you may not make as much does not mean that you're not entitled to the same level of financial investment for yourself as your spouse has. So that's one example. Or like this client I mentioned, you don't know how much is saved, you don't know how much is invested, and you have no clue of what is owed. And this is a really big problem that I see women have. For some reason, the marriage relationship, and when it comes to the financial situation, is so fractured and split that each of them may handle their own finances, or she's totally dependent on his finances. So if something happens to him, or if something happens in the relationship and she feels like she needs to get out, it could be for her own safety, it could be for her own mental health. She can't because she has no clue of what's going on in the relationship. The other thing is, well, you're scared of losing the house, the lifestyle, the stability. Your spouse has created a great lifestyle for you. It's stable. Yes, you can use the Amex card. You can pretty much get what you want. You can get what you need. Your children go to the best schools. You drive in a great car. Life is good. You can shop in Publix or Harris Teeter or all the nice stores, right? You don't want to lose that financial stability, that lifestyle, if you decide to do something else. But why should you stay in an abusive relationship just for the lifestyle and the stability? And I understand, totally understand. There is so much fear attached to having to start over with nothing. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes women just walk away and they get nothing. So this is an example of a cheaper to keeper woman. Let's talk about how this happens. How? How do you become that woman? Well, the first one is she doesn't work. All right. So she doesn't work outside of the home and she may feel dependent. She may be afraid of poverty and instability. She may believe that she cannot make it alone. I totally, totally understand where you're coming from there. The next thing is, well, she may work. She may have a job. Her money may be her money, or, she may pay the utilities, but she doesn't earn enough money. She doesn't earn the most money, shall I say. So she's afraid of losing things like maybe child support or insurance. He may have a better insurance plan. Your spouse may use money to intimidate you, to make you feel less than. You wouldn't have anything without me. This is why you're living so good. I pay the bills, so what's your problem? And that causes you to stay in an abusive relationship, right? Or she works on her own and she's afraid, she's nervous about or feels guilty about spending her own money, right? She has guilt associated with that. Sometimes that's the issue. Or it could be this scenario. It could be a high achieving woman, and I work with a lot of them. She makes great money, but he controls the household finances. Or he weaponizes her success against her. I was in a relationship where it was, you think you so smart. You think you know everything. If I said something or I refuted something, it was, oh, you think you better than me. You think you smarter than me. So, we always know that when someone's accusing you, it's really about them and it's not about you. But when you hear that enough, you internalize that. And you don't want to seem like you're one upping your spouse. You don't want to seem like you think you're better than them, right? So that can also be an issue. Or she just scared of losing the assets that she worked hard to build. I mean, let's face it, more and more women are making money now. We're more educated, we've become more successful. And if we're in long term marriages, and then after 20 years, we decide we want to leave, and we have been the primary breadwinner, we stand to lose quite a bit if we leave, depending upon the state that you're in. And so your spouse could, take some half of your retirement. They could request that you pay them alimony. You could wind up having to pay for them to live in the house. So those are some of the reasons why you can become a financial hostage, how you can become a cheaper to keeper woman. Let's talk about the emotional reality that nobody really talks about. No one really gets into that. The shame. There is so much shame with having to walk away from a relationship that you invested in. So you stay in that financially abusive situation. What can I do? I can't go anywhere. I haven't beefed up my skills. I haven't improved myself where I could go get a job somewhere or start a business that would make me enough money to be able to live on my own, right? Or live and take care of my children. There could be some fear of judgment, right? I mean, on the outside, everything looks great. I sometimes I hate Facebook. Sometimes I do because it gives you this picture of relationships and, no one is really going to post when they're having a bad day as a couple, right? Everything is going to be great. Everything's going to be on the up and up. And listen, I'm not saying people are lying, but there are people, women in a financially abusive situation that make it look all good. Like there's nothing wrong because they don't want to be judged. Again, they have this fear of starting over, or better yet, this one, especially for us smart women, is I should have known better. I should have known better. Like, really? What is wrong with me? So you start looking at yourself and blaming yourself for the fact that you're in a financially abusive relationship, that you are financial hostage and you cannot get out of this because finances are, or you're fearful. You're fearful. You feel like you're going to be judged. But listen, this is something I want you to tell yourself. You are not weak. You are not foolish. And you are not alone. You're not. There are so many women out there like you. There are so many women out there that are struggling. I think if we can find our tribe, if we can find people that we can be authentically ourselves, be transparent with each other without judging one another, that would be so great. I mean, we can start now. Us women listening to this can commit to being there, an ear for our sisters, right? If we spot and see that there's some financial abuse there, being there to listen, to love on them and not judge them and not blame them. Because trust me, a woman in this situation is blaming more than you can ever. So let's talk about solutions. So we know what they look like, we know what it feels like, but how can we stop it? The first thing you can do is if you feel like you're a financial hostage, if you feel like you are a cheaper to keeper woman, these are some things I want you to start doing right away. The first thing is get your own bank account. Get a bank account in your name and your name only, a checking account and a savings account. The second thing is begin to build a private savings buffer. No, if you are getting an allowance, some women in their marriages get an allowance, don't spend it all. Start saving it, start putting it away. If you work part time or if you work, period, and you may not make as much as your spouse, begin to start saving 10, 15, 20% of that in that separate savings account that you have opened. The next thing is pull your credit report. Listen, I was talking to a friend of mine a couple months back. She said a friend of hers got married, had this big, beautiful, wonderful wedding. I think it was in December. And by February or March, she started getting notices of bills coming to her house. And when she opened it up, she found out that her husband had bought 3 new cars in her name. Never told her or anything. He was using them to do the rental car thing. 3 new Teslas in her name using her credit, right? And his credit, jointly owned though, but it was in her name as well. She had no idea of that purchase. And so I tell you to pull your credit report. Really take a look at it. Make sure everything on there is accurate and there are no outstanding loans and debt that is in your name. Then begin to copy important documents. Begin to get those things together, right? Retirement accounts, if you can find them, bank accounts, if you can locate them. Important things that you will need if and when you decide that you've had enough. That is something I encourage you to do. The next thing is really find out what the true household picture looks like. A lot of women don't know things like, well, what's the house payment? Or what's the balance on the house? Or, is there a home equity line open on the house? Is there a lien on the house? What do the tax returns look like? A lot of women, I don't know if they sign the tax returns, but when you ask them their total household income, they're really not sure. They give you a range. You need to start figuring out what the total household financial picture looks like. How much does your spouse truly make? How much is the debt that you truly have? His debt, your debt. You know, are you behind on payments? Is the car in your name? How much is owed? You really need to start asking and gathering information on the true financial picture of the household. And then meet with someone, a financial planner, confidently to kind of lay out what's going on, to discuss what your financial situation is so that you can get a non biased, objective advice from this person based on what you share. Now, you have to be honest and you have to be transparent. You can't withhold information. But I tell you, this third party can help you navigate this season of your life. So you can contact someone like myself to really sit down and help you dig through your financial situation. And then the last thing would be to build a life plan before you make a life change. And that's where that financial person comes in. That person is going to help you build a plan, a strategy in priority order based on your goals and your resources and be very real with you. If they're not willing to look at your total picture, if they're not willing to be transparent, if they want to do a transaction and not really help you build a potential financial future for your life, then you need to find someone who will. Now, if you stay, right? If you stay, then how do you rebuild your safety? You set up transparency. You've got to ask and require that everything be transparent. All the finances, tax returns, debts, everything owed. You need to demand that level of transparency. You also need to demand shared access. One of the worst things that can happen is your spouse, something happens to them, whether they die or they become ill, and you need to access accounts and information, and you do not have shared access. And what I mean by that is password access. You don't have statement information, and you're not the beneficiary on those accounts. You need to make sure that those things happen if you're going to stay. And then begin to have monthly money talks. Don't approach it negatively, but sit down with them and tell them how much you want to be involved in what's going on in the financial side of the things in the house. You want to work together. You want to understand. You want to know, so that everybody can be on the same page. And then use a neutral professional. Once you two come together, if you decide you're going to stay, then find somebody that doesn't work with you or him to come together with that person and be able to help you pull back the layers on the finances, understand your situation, and then help you two to build a plan together. One rule of thumb for me is I will never work with a couple one-sided. So if the husband's not there, I'm sorry, I'm not working with you. Or they have to write that they know that their spouse is not involved and they make financial decisions on their own, or they have intent of leaving or they're filing for divorce or something like that. But to work with me, if you are married, we need both of you working together, or at least the other spouse knowing what's going on in the finances. And then, like I said, build your own credit, begin to do your own savings, even while you stay. So just because you decide to stay, that doesn't mean you lift your foot off the gas. That means that you still do those things. You still take care of yourself. You are a woman. You have rights. You can build your own retirement. Even if you're a stay-at-home mother, you should have a spousal IRA. You should have an account that you're investing in for your retirement future. I mean, a stay-at-home mom is a six-figure job. You can invest in a traditional IRA for yourself at least $7,000 a year if you're under 50 years old and 8,000 if you're over. So you can do that now. This is what I'm saying. Take your financial situation into your hands. Don't sit back and wait for somebody to take care of you or wait for somebody to think about your future. You think about your future now and start doing what it takes to build the future you want with your spouse or without. So here's my closing message to you, ladies. You are not created to be trapped. Your financial life belongs to you. I'm going to say that again. Your financial life, it belongs to you. If it's up to you, if you want to do that, your financial life, you can no longer put your financial life in someone else's hands. It is up to you. It belongs to you. You have a right to create the financial future and the financial picture that you want. I don't care if you're married or you're single. The last thing, it's not cheaper to keep a woman who is losing herself. Again, it is just not cheaper to keep a woman who is losing herself. Ladies, let's get on it. Let's stop giving our financial power over and start in these relationships working together and collaborating. But if that's not possible, and if you are being held a financial hostage, I encourage you, I implore you to begin taking the necessary steps for your future to make sure that you can craft your financial future and know that your financial life belongs to you. Thanks for listening, and you all have a great day. Thanks for listening to Becoming a Financially Confident Woman. I know from experience that confidence with money can change everything. Be sure to subscribe, share this podcast with another woman who needs encouragement, and visit Woman to Woman Financial to schedule your confidential financial conversation. Remember, you are becoming a financially confident woman.